This is Columbus Concerns, a public affairs presentation of North American Broadcasting. Here's your host, Mark News.
And good morning, and thanks so much for joining us today on Columbus Concerns. Our guest on the program today is the director of the Franklin County Veteran Service Commission, Buck Bramlish. And Buck, thanks for coming back on the show with us.
It is a great thing to be here every year. Thank you for always supporting our veterans.
Hey, we just had Veterans Day this past week, and talk a little bit about what Veterans Day means to you, Buck.
You know, I think all of us reflect on our service in Veterans Day. And, for me, 34 years, a lot of that was Army National Guard, also served overseas for a little bit. But you think about, what you did, where you were at when you were serving, the people that you've got to work with, some of the greatest people, but both Americans and other allies. And there's a challenge of service, there's the emotion, there's even the heartache, that we've all felt in the past 20 years. But in the end, I think it's pride. You look back and it's just, you look back and say, I spent, whether it was 2 years or 6 years or however many years, I spent serving our country and doing my part to make sure we stay a free, great nation.
Well, obviously, Veterans Day is for the veterans, but it's really for everyone.
It is. We always talk about, I love the Columbus Veterans Day Parade, and we try to get everyone out there. We talk about getting veterans to the parade, and that's important. But you're right. It's also about the community coming together. I don't have a great quote memorized, but I know that there are plenty out there that basically say, if we don't celebrate what our veterans do, the day may come when there's not as much to celebrate. And so by celebrating Veterans Day, their service, the sacrifice and service of their families, I think that when the next generation, the young kids come up and they look at their mom or dad or grandparents and say, I'm thinking about the Army or the Navy or the Space Force now,
Yeah.
You hope their parents kind of get that head nod, going up and down. The military offers so much opportunity, and I think Veterans Day is both a thank you and then maybe a nudge to the future generations that America will always remember its veterans.
Buck, for those who don't know, tell us more about the Franklin County Veteran Service Commission, your charge, and what it is you do.
I've been here almost 7 years, started right after I came back from overseas and retired from the military. And it's an organization that, first of all, is made up of only veterans and veteran family members. So that's, if you work there, you're either a veteran yourself or a immediate family member of a veteran. And our charge is a great charge that goes all the way back to the end of the Civil War. It's about taking care of veterans, their families, widows, orphans. And over the years, it was codified into the Ohio Revised Code. And now every county has got a Veteran Service Commission. So I serve Franklin County, but if you're hearing this and you're in a different county, every county's got a service commission. We focus on kind of three things: emergency financial assistance, and kind of a need-based program. And I can talk about that. So emergency financial assistance. We focus on being a pathway to veterans' benefits. Most commonly, those benefits are through the VA, but there's some great state benefits, and often there's local benefits. But we will help and actually file for VA claims for our veterans. And then finally, we have a transportation program that provides any veteran transportation to medical appointments. Sometimes that's 6,000 or 7,000 round trip transportation appointments a year for us. They generally generate from the VA, but we have a great VA clinic in the Columbus area that I think is a great partner of ours. We work with them every day. But they are a clinic, and so they're not a hospital. And because of that, they have a community partner program. And so most commonly for surgeries or treatments, you're referred out to the great medical communities in Central Ohio, whether it's Riverside or Ohio State. I still have all these surgeries I got to get done on my joints, and it's Ortho One for me. And so that's the great thing about our clinic is they will provide referrals to the great organizations, medical community that we have here. And I should say the medical transportation program is for the veteran's spouse, the veteran's widow or widower. We'll provide that transportation in our county for any of those members. And so it's just a matter of contacting us and applying. So those are the three things in a nutshell: emergency financial assistance, pathway to veterans benefits, medical transportation.
Before we get into those three services, could you talk a little bit about how people can get a hold of the Franklin County Veterans Services Commission?
Yeah, I'd love to. We changed the way we operate during COVID, and we've stuck with it. Quite honestly, we used to have a lobby that was pretty full, and it was challenging. Sometimes a veteran would wait a long time, and that's just not a great way to run your program. But many places were first come, first serve. So we are appointment based now. Mm-hmm. So you'll want to call us. That number is 614-525-2500. 614-525-2500. You want to call us and talk to us about what your issue is, and then we'll set an initial appointment. The first initial appointment might be just 10 or 15 minutes, tends to be on the phone to figure out what. Are you looking for help with financial assistance? Are you looking for help with medical transportation? And then once we figure that out, then we'll set an appointment. That appointment will generally be 3 or 4 days later. But you can decide, do you want to come in for the appointment, or do you want to execute the appointment over the phone? If you want to do it over the phone, we have drop boxes now where you can drop paperwork off. You don't even have to go through security. So we think it's really been positively received by the veterans. Sometimes in the past they'd come in, they'd wait an hour or so, they'd come see us, but maybe they forgot a form. Well, we can't finish, and so then they had to repeat the next day, and so we learned, I think we just like a lot of organizations said, wait, we can do things differently. And so appointment-based now, call in. We also have a website that provides information if you want to understand what we do a little bit. And that website is vets, which is VETS, vets.Franklin County, Ohio, all one word, then .gov. So I'll say it again, vets.FranklinCountyOhio.gov.
That's pretty easy to remember.
Yeah.
Of all the website addresses, some of them are pretty rough, but that's vets.FranklinCountyOhio.gov.
Of course, if they were watching me right now, they'd see that I was looking at my cheat sheet to make sure I did it right.
Yeah. Buck Bramlish is here. He is the director of the Franklin County Veterans Service Commission. We just had Veterans Day, and Buck always stops by around Veterans Day, and we talk about veterans issues. Let's go down through some of these, the three main areas of concern that you have. One is emergency financial services to veterans. Talk about what that would cover and who is eligible for that.
So let me start with, I want to set an expectation for anybody listening, and that expectation is if you're a veteran in Franklin County and you served honorably, you have some type of honorable discharge. It could be honorable, it could be general honorable conditions, and veterans will understand that. Mm-hmm. And you've been a county resident for 90 days at least, so that means you've been here at least 90 days, and you can describe your need. We call it a bona fide need. Those are the folks that we assist, and I will tell you, there's two pockets, and I want everybody to know you can fit into these pockets. One pocket are people that they're just like you and I. Life's going on, maybe it's fairly well, but they run into a stumbling block. I used to have an old boss. I used to work for General John Harris. Most folks have heard of his name. He was very helpful to the governor throughout the pandemic. But he used to say, Buck, everyone needs to take a knee once in a while. And that means everyone. That means leaders. That means subordinates. Everyone needs to take a knee. And so if you've run into an issue, maybe you broke a leg and you are out of sick leave and now you can't make your rent payment. Maybe your spouse is ill and is no longer able to work, and your bills are mounting up. Mm-hmm. We all have those challenges at some point in our life. Come to us, because those are the kind of folks that will help. That's kind of one group of folks we help. And I want everyone to know that can be you. The other group, and I will tell you it's probably 60%-ish, maybe a little bit more, are those that are in and out of the poverty cycle. They're the ones that are struggling on unlimited or no income. Often they have disabilities. And for them, our goal is to is I call it making time and space for solutions. So we try to keep them housed, keep the lights on, provide food while we refer them to the heroes, which are generally social workers, mental health care, physicians that are actually going to try to solve their issue. Sometimes the issue isn't mental health. Sometimes it's jobs. Sometimes, we send them to Ohio Means Jobs, or we send them to Southeast Medical Clinic where they do some good counseling. Certainly the VA is a partner we rely on the most. But we'll try to keep them in a good spot to try to make time for others to provide their expertise that we don't have. So now you mentioned so what do we do, right? So it's in the last 2 years during COVID, we've probably helped maybe 1,100 veterans with rent or mortgage. In 2019, just before the pandemic hit, we did provided over 1,000 veterans with rent support just in that 1 year. It was a very busy year for us. COVID kind of changed things, and there was lots of avenues for different support, which was a great thing for people in need. But rent, mortgage, utilities, we provide food vouchers through a local grocer. We have a wonderful dental program. Let me talk about that, because I think so much. Dental is something, especially as you start to age out of the workforce, that a lot of people don't have good dental coverage. We have our coverage set, and it's based on what I said earlier. You're resident, and do you have an honorable discharge? But then it's based on poverty level. So if you're at 250% or less of the poverty level, you're eligible as a veteran. Your spouse is eligible as a veteran. The widow and widower are all eligible as a veteran. And eligible for what? Anything from preventive maintenance all the way up to full dentures. And so it's a program that we are always very excited about. Franklin County, the county commissioners are very supportive in our programs as we try to provide these for our veterans. We find a lot of veterans just don't have dental care. So so that's a big program that we like to offer. We also have a holiday meal card program, and that's going on right now. It is 2 $100 gift cards to, again, a local grocer. And it provides the opportunity for a holiday meal both for Thanksgiving and the Christmas holiday season. It's the same type of thing. If you're at 250% of the poverty level or less, then you're eligible for that. And by the way, the 250% of the poverty level for a single veteran is about $33,000. Mm-hmm. So if you're making $33,000 annually or less, you're eligible. If you're a married couple, that's around $44,000, $45,000. So there's a lot of folks that are eligible for these programs. It's in recognition of your service, and it's just trying to bring a little higher quality of life to our veterans.
And it sounds like you work with a lot of other organizations here in Central Ohio. You talk about how you have the temporary solution, and you try to come up with solutions to their long-term programs. But it sounds like you work with a lot of other organizations.
We do. So when I first started this job, and I realized that really, over 90% of the veterans, over 90% that come to us for financial assistance get all or part of what they're seeking based on the needs. It's a pretty high level. Yeah. And I was very excited about that. But you're here for a year or two, I start to think about it. And as a group, an agency, the board that I work for, we started asking ourselves, is there a little bit of enabling there? And so what we decided is we decided we're going to use this term sustained solution. And for the person I talked to earlier that broke their leg and just needed 2 months rent, and once their leg healed, they were back to work. Mm-hmm. Well, that was the solution. Yeah. I'm glad we provided it. But for those that are challenged in the poverty cycle, maybe that are challenged to have a steady job, have mental health challenges, et cetera, we've got to have a referral base to get them to that sustained solution. I talked to our staff at a staff meeting recently, and I provided some data that's just out there. And I said, the data says if you're experiencing a poverty spell, if you dip into the poverty level, and if you've been in it for a year or less, you have about a 56% chance of coming out of it, but a little better than half. If you've been in that poverty spell, though, for 7 years or more, it's down to 13% coming out of it. And so there's no magical way to find the 13% and say, we'll help that one and we'll help that one. We got to help them all and figure out how to get them to take advantage of the referrals who, again, they're the ones that provide solutions. So sometimes, as I said, it's Ohio Means Jobs. Sometimes Southeast does a great job for us providing not just mental and physical health care, but also employment care. We talk to VA social workers I would say every day, and we're referring to them back and forth, communicating, because when you have a social worker involved, I call it a quarterback. You got a quarterback that's working with that veteran. And if that veteran, whether he or she is or isn't going to their appointments, whether they do or don't really understand the situation they're in, that quarterback can help them navigate some of the solutions, help them fill out forms, whether it's Social Security or other types of things. And so we always think it's a good day when a social worker is working with a veteran. So, and then there's, the Volunteers of America has a veteran shelter that they manage, Lutheran Social Services, Faith Mission. There are so many really great partners that are trying to provide pathways to improvement. So again, we try to keep the lights on, keep them housed, and let those kind of experts try to help solve problems or get people to a better spot.
Our guest on the show today is the Franklin County Veteran Services Commission Director, Buck Bramlish, and vets.franklincountyohio.gov is the website that you can go to, and they can set up appointments for veterans and get them the help that they need. Pathway to benefits, the second thing on your list. Talk a little bit about. It sounds like it's not an easy way to go when it comes. Nothing like that seems to be easy when it comes to getting the benefits that you need.
Yeah, I said that the VA is a great partner of ours, and they are, but it doesn't mean seeking VA benefits is an easy process. It is often a very complex and challenging process. So what we do is we get our staff trained and accredited as service officers so that they understand the VA process. They're able to gain access to certain VA systems that provide them the insight and ability to try to help veterans. The VA is wonderful in the sense that they provide this access and this support. They understand that we are advocates for the veterans. Sometimes it's almost, we chuckle a lot of times. Veterans will come in and they'll keep calling us the VA. We're not the VA, it's a big federal government organization. We're a local county organization. And the reason that that's important is because, the VA can't advocate for or against itself. We can. We can be an advocate for the veterans. So what we do with these accredited service officers is we try to understand the veteran situation. And it is a myriad. It's everything you can imagine. It is the veteran that just got out of service, maybe within the last couple of years, and has a nagging issue that they either occurred while they were serving or was made worse while they were serving. Those are important things that occurred while they were serving or was made worse by their service. And that issue is creating some kind of difficulty and problem for them. And there's some diagnosis for it. If those two things are present, then we help them actually do research, fill out the correct form, and then apply for these veteran benefits. So that's one small group. There's another group, and I'll just jump all the way ahead, who maybe had an injury in the military. They hurt their back, their knee, or something. But within a month or so, they were better, and they finished their military service, their deployment, their career, their tour, whatever it was. And they came back and they did their thing. And then they got old like me. And all of a sudden that knee that you just, you made do and you had a little limp, or when you went up and down stairs, you kind of compensated. Well, 30 years of doing that, now you have a significant issue. And so that's another group of veterans, and I want to point that out because I think that's the hardest group to reach sometimes, that have been away from their service for a while, haven't thought about that they might have a claim. And so we want to encourage people, friends of veterans, spouses, that, if you had someone that served and they have a struggle, if it was connected to their service, they should contact us, and we should explore with them if there is some kind of VA connection. So I've talked about two groups: those that maybe just got out, those that have been out for a while. Sometimes I give my dad's as an example. I know I said this last time. I say it every time. I won the parent lottery. I had the greatest parents in the world. Dad happened to be a Korean War era veteran. But in his last couple of years, he was service connected for an injury he had while he was serving. I used to tease him because during the Korean War, he served 4 years in Hawaii, and I would tease him, and he'd laugh. And but the truth is, you go where you're told to go.
Yeah.
He didn't sign up for a tour. He was stationed in Hawaii. But I pointed out because you don't have to get injured or wounded or while you were overseas fighting. It's the military service. Did it happen while you were serving? And so we looked at Dad's issues, and he had lots of mobility issues. And bottom line is, he was service connected for an injury that paid him $150 a month, I think, for the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. For him at that stage of his life, he was fortunate. It wasn't really about the money, but boy, did that mean the world to him, because he was so proud of his service. And so there are people that just got out, people that been out for a long time. If you have some type of issue, we want to hear about it. So let me talk for a second about the compensation. So it's called service-connected compensation. The compensation from the VA, they rate it between 10% and 100%. And 10% is basically about $150 a month, tax-free. Mm-hmm. 100% can be $3,100 a month, tax-free, or even more if you have dependents. And so for folks, I talk to folks all the time. These are earned benefits. So if you have something that happened or occurred in the military and it still is a problem today, there's some kind of diagnosis, these are earned benefits. For some people, it just improves their quality of life a little bit. For my dad, it improved it just a little bit, but it was something that he felt good about, mm-hmm. kind of acknowledged the service. For others, it's life-changing. If you're the part of that 60% I talked about, living in a poverty cycle, and you get connected at 40 or 50%, and I don't know off the top of my head if that's $800 or $900 a month, but that's life changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of a sudden, you can pay rent, or at least part of rent. Maybe you're on some type of assisted housing program, and so we do this anywhere from 600-700 times a year. I go back 2019 pre-COVID, we did over 1,000 times a year, 1,000 claims. So we encourage folks that if you have some kind of issue or injury that still is a problem today and it was made worse or occurred in the military, go to your local county Veterans Service Commission. And if you're Franklin County, call us.
Buck Bramlish is here from the Franklin County Veterans Service Commission. He is the director, and their website is vets.franklincountyohio.gov. The phone number 614-525-2500. And Buck, before we run out of time, I wanted you to mention the Veterans Crisis Line. Talk about that.
Yeah, thank you. So there was an 800 number that's changed to just 3 digits, 988. 988 is the National Crisis and Suicide Line. It's for anybody, and I think it's important that everybody today knows 988 is that crisis line. If you dial 988 and then you press 1, then you'll go to somebody that has received training in kind of veterans issues.
Okay.
And so we'll tell people 988 for anybody. If it's a veteran, dial 988 and then press 1. And as a crisis line, there are trained counselors on there that will talk you through what you're going through. I mean, if someone is suicidal at that time, then generally you're going to want to call 911, or you're going to want to reach out to an immediate resource. But the crisis line can also make that happen if they need to. But the crisis line, when anybody is struggling, emotionally, and they feel they just don't have a pathway forward, and they need someone to talk to, or the family member of this individual, veteran or not. That 988 crisis line is a very important number. And by the way, it's a national number, but generally it's manned inside the state. So it's different organizations inside our state that would answer the calls that come out of Ohio. So the 2022 VA report on suicide had 2020 numbers, and those 2020 numbers for veteran suicides were still over 16 veterans per day. Wow. So if you know a veteran or a veteran family member, be aware of that 988 number. Make sure their family's aware of it if you think that veteran has any kind of issues.
I'm glad you mentioned that again. It's 988, Veterans Crisis Line, 988, and then hit 1 for someone who is trained to work with veterans.
Yes, sir.
We have a couple minutes left. I wanted to touch on the third area of concern, and that is something I think most of us take for granted. We need to go somewhere, we jump out, get in the car, and go. But that's not always the case that people can do that. So you offer veterans transportation to their medical appointments.
We do. And because we're a large county with over 60,000 veterans, not to mention family members, we generally use taxi service. Some of our sister counties have really nice vans where they'll actually do some of the transportation. But just the volume and the way we're structured, if you sign up for our program, we'll work to assign you to a company, and then you can call for your appointments, and they'll pick you up at your home, take you to the appointment, pick you up at the appointment, take you back home. For some people, this is just a one or two thing. For others, it's cancer treatments, it's all kinds of things, and so it is something that we're glad to provide. And again, in our county, we provide it for the veteran, spouse, widow, and widower. And then if I can, I did want to just go back to one thing that I wanted to mention.
Sure.
There's been August 10th, the PACT Act was signed by President Biden. And the PACT Act was probably the most significant veteran law that has been signed, certainly since in the last 10 years. And there was the Mission Act, which was also changed the way we did a lot of things. So the PACT Act is still evolving. We're still understanding what's all involved. But I will tell you that the PACT Act is going to open up some things. It added presumptives to some of the lists. So it added a couple presumptives for those that served in Vietnam. Presumptive means if you have an issue and you were in that particular area or Vietnam in that time frame, they're going to presume that your issue was caused by being in Vietnam, for example. You're not going to have to prove that, And so the PACT Act also is really working on research and support for veterans that were really impacted by all these burn pits and the dust and environment that our service members have been serving over the last 20 years. The good news is, the PACT Act recognizes this is new, and so if you have something you want to file for or you think you should file for, if you file within the first year, everything will be backdated to August 10th, 2022, even if you file in January or February. So I want people to be aware of the PACT Act and the changes.
Once again, Buck, give us the information on how people can get a hold of the Franklin County Veterans Service Commission.
Please call us at 614-525-2500. Talk to someone or leave a message if we have to get back to you, and we'll set an appointment and we'll try to support you.
Buck Bramlish has been here, the director of the Franklin County Veterans Service Commission. Buck, thanks so much, and a belated Happy Veterans Day.
It's great seeing you, Mark. Very appreciative.
Thanks for listening to Columbus Concerns, a public affairs presentation of North American Broadcasting. You can send questions or comments about today's show to Columbus Concerns in care of this station, 1458 Dublin Road, Columbus 43215. Or email us at columbusconcerns@napcomedia.com.
Self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.